Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We'll just get everyone settled in. Well, look, welcome to the 10th edition of this great event that we have on our campus. It's a strange name. We call it Leadership Insights, a View from the Helm. So where did we come up with that name? The reason we came up with that name was just down the road, the 11th president of University of Michigan was a gentleman's name by Dr. James Duderstadt. And I read his book well over a decade ago, maybe 15 years ago, and he was trying to describe what it's like to lead these complex organizations called universities, and he wanted to give future leaders and presidents a view from the helm. You know, what's it really like? And so it was Dr. Stehauer, we were chatting about it one day, and we said, why don't we take that notion of leadership, getting insights from world-class leaders, bring them onto this campus for the benefit of our students and faculty and staff, for the benefits of alumni and people who are unable to join us, who join us online. And that's where these sessions have come from. And today is no different. Dr. Stehauer will do the formal introduction to our guests, but let me extend a real warm welcome to Brett's wife, Karen, and sons, Landon and Carter. They came in last night all the way from Utah to be with us. They're going to be on campus for the next couple of days, and you're going to hear from our guest why we're spending more time with him tomorrow. And talking about a variety of things. I had dinner with Brett maybe about a month ago out in this beautiful, beautiful part of the country called Park City, Utah. And Brett, if you remember, I said to you, of all the alumni who I've met, he's the only one that fit this criteria. If I think of Northwood today, I think of us being an absolute leader in developing business people, right? That's not a surprise to the students who are here. We also have this really strong strength around automotive, and a lot of you are involved in that in one way or the other. And we also have this third part of the stool called technology that we're embedding into our programs. And so this entrepreneurial business, automotive, technology, I said to Brett, I think you're the only alumnus I have met who's cracked the code on each one of those areas. He brings an absolutely fascinating background, storytelling, experience, and tremendous success. And we're just so proud that he's here and so proud that he is an alumnus, like many of you are going to become. But fundamentally, this is an academic activity. How do we extend the academic learning and thinking? Because we are a university, and one of my friends and colleagues, Dr. David Oventhal, is going to do the context setting from an academic point of view. And Dr. Oventhal holds a very important role here, besides being the most important people on the campus, those who are teaching our students, but he's also the professor for the Subaru of New England, professor of automotive strategies. And he's helping us make sure that our automotive programs stay ahead of where the needs are. And in fact, David just told me earlier he has a friend coming from, where is he? Germany in a couple of weeks to do research together, so that research can continue to be inform the classroom learning. So if you could give a warm Northwood welcome to Dr. Oventhal, that'd be great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, President McDonald. Thank you, everyone. Great crowd. We're really excited that the whole room's full. So thank you for being here, especially if it's your first Leadership Insights, a View from the Helm. And we're very honored to welcome back an alumnus to share his experience, success, and leadership lessons from his massively successful career in the automotive industry. And selfishly, I'm really excited to have you here because to learn from a great marketing leader. And no matter how long we do something, the road to mastery requires continuous learning. And we all have to keep learning, be it from reading books or from great successful entrepreneurs like Brett. And as Northwood develops leaders who help drive economic and social progress in a variety of segments, our guest tonight exemplifies the Northwood idea, especially in terms of individual responsibility, earned success, and most importantly, free enterprise. And as Peter Drucker said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And as Brett's shown, to succeed in the automotive industry, you don't just need a lot of really strong business acumen, but you need to be creative and innovative. And Northwood's Spring OmniQuest selection, has anyone read this book yet? Oh, we got a couple of hands, good. So this is Extreme Ownership and How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win by Jocko Willink and Leif Band. And it notes that leadership's hard. It's a skill and it's a technique and it takes a long time to get really good at it. And Brett's an example of how innovative and successful leaders can really improve businesses. And we're going to learn that today. It's going to be a lot of fun. But not only is our guest an inspirational business leader, but so is our moderator. And what I'd like to do is introduce Dr. Kristen Stahauer. She's Northwood University's academic vice president and provost. And Dr. Stahauer exemplifies authentic leadership in terms of supporting and guiding all of us throughout the university with trust, commitment, and positivity. She earned her doctorate in political science and international relations from Northwestern University, and she also did postgraduate work in higher education at Harvard University. And Dr. Stahauer's career has focused on strategy formulation and implementation, as well as continuous quality improvements. She's worked internationally, both in large and small organizations, and in a variety of sectors such as healthcare, manufacturing, financial services, as well as nonprofits. And she brings a strong combination of theoretical and practical experience to the university. Dr. Stahauer's values, personality, knowledge, experience, and skills allow all of us to flourish and grow here. And she truly exemplifies the Northwood idea and the Fresh Air Code of Ethics. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Kristen Stahauer.
Thank you so much, Dave, for that introduction. It's really touching to me. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon, both here at Northwood University's Griswold Lecture Hall, as well as the many joining us via live streaming. Brett Sutherlin is joining us for the 10th in our series, in which we hear from top leaders, Leadership Insights, A View from the Helm. He is a prominent figure in the tech space as well as the automotive industry, and he's recognized for his innovative approaches and leadership. He currently serves as the owner and chief executive officer of Sutherlin Automotive Group, a second-generation family-owned dealership network renowned for its significant growth and profitability. Brett's journey in the automotive sector began during his formative years working within his family's dealership operations. He pursued higher education at Northwood University, where he earned a Bachelor of Business Administration, specializing in automotive marketing. In 2009, Sutherlin founded Fusion Zone Automotive, a company dedicated to providing advanced digital marketing solutions tailored for automotive dealers. Under his leadership, Fusion Zone evolved into one of the nation's largest automotive digital marketing providers, serving over 2,000 dealership clients. The company was later sold to Primus Capital in October 2017. Beyond his entrepreneurial adventures, Brett has been featured in various media outlets, sharing insights on dealership operations and sales strategies, particularly transforming dealership operations and sales culture within Sutherlin Automotive Group. His expertise extends to digital marketing and dealership technology areas, which he has implemented innovative strategies to enhance customer engagement and operational efficiency. His contributions are literally reshaping the automotive space, particularly in integrating digital solutions within traditional dealership frameworks. In the last 10 years, Brett has been involved in over 20 businesses with billions of dollars in annual revenue and has exited many businesses for over $500 million collectively. That is $500 billion. $500 million. Well, you know what? Soon to be $500 billion, I would imagine, if you keep on this pace, Brett. In a way, it's a look into a crystal ball this afternoon, where the automotive industry is going, and more generally, business in this digital transition and artificial and use of artificial intelligence. But this vision is already a reality in the companies he leads. So please join me in formally welcoming Mr. Brett Sutherlin. We'll get that up to it for you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks again for joining us, and I think we'll just dive right in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so as a kid, what did you foresee your career to be? What were your dreams?
I was passionate about automotive. My father was in the business. I grew up in the business. He owned he started the company in 1972. I was born in 73. So, I was enamored with the car business and wanted to, understand it. I grew up washing cars. I grew up and really went through every department in the dealership, just learning. And, that was, I knew I wanted to go. I had never heard of Northwood University. Literally, that just kind of came out of left field. I was on a trip. My dad was a Mazda dealer. It was one of the franchises he owned, and I was on a trip in the Black Sea, a cruise that they had won, and it was my mother took me, and at the time it was always because my dad said, "Oh, if the plane crashes, we want one of us to be around." I think that was all bullshit, but anyway, so
You didn't want to go on the cruise.
No, he didn't want to go on the cruise, and frankly, I don't want to know what he was doing when he was not on the cruise either. But so I was with my mother, and I met the CEO of Mazda on the cruise, and he asked me, he said, "Where are you going to college?" And I said, "I'm going to the University of Alabama." My family had been to the University of Alabama, had gone there, and I was originally born in Alabama, moved to Atlanta. And he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I told him, he understood that I was in the dealership, worked in the dealership, grew up in the dealership. He's like, "You're making a huge mistake. You need to go to Northwood." So literally, he talked to me about it for like a week. And then literally, I flew to Northwood and went on a tour and enrolled. And the rest was history.
So what age were you when you went on the cruise then?
Probably, I was a senior, and
Senior,
I
so
had made my decision.
Yeah,
I was headed south, but
Well, we are so glad you changed
then I
course.
ended up heading to the middle of nowhere here. And so,
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and we certainly appreciate the persuasive powers of the head of Mazda, too.
Right.
in getting you here. Could you tell us a little bit about Sutherlin Automotive Group?
yeah, so as I said, my father, he owned his first dealership in 1972. It was a Chevy store in Alabama. He grew that from that point to 23 stores, mainly between Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. And I graduated from Northwood in 1995. And conveniently, he sold everything 6 months later. So I was pretty sure I was going to be jumping in, and my thought as a young person back then was I'm going to run the whole thing, and then it was gone. He was one of the first dealers to sell to AutoNations, which at the time was Republic Industries, and Wayne Huizinga was the founder, and they were just starting. It was the same time Mike Maroney sold, and then right after Mike Maroney sold, my father sold, and I stayed on with AutoNations and worked for a few years, and had an opportunity to take over a Honda dealership in Miami that was severely underperforming, where I met my wife Karen, and Karen worked as the as the finance director at that dealership, and I took over the store. I did not have any HR complaints, even though I married the. But so I was lucky there. In today's day and age, I probably wouldn't have been. But I realized at the time this store was 700th in the nation in Honda. There were only 800 Honda stores, so it was dead last. And I realized at the time I could be sitting on the dealership showroom in North Miami Beach, where the store was located, and put Honda Accord for sale near me, and I was nowhere to be seen. I mean, nowhere. I mean, it was literally like we were non-existent online. And that's when I realized that there's a huge opportunity here, because the technology, the websites at the time, they were Cobalt, and I don't even know if dealer.com was even in business then. But I said we're going to do something different here. I stopped the frivolous spending of what I consider frivolous advertising. They were like, had Beach Honda on the back of like the bus seats. Do you remember that, Karen? Like the benches, like it would say Beach Honda, and that's where they're advertising. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. We stopped all traditional advertising. I hired a company to come in and build us our own infrastructure where we would, have some relevance from an SEO perspective. And we started showing up, and we started appearing. And over the next little bit of time, we took the store from 700th in the country to 500 to the top 100 to the top 25. And then we had many Honda dealers saying, whatever in the hell they're doing, I want on board with it. And Karen and I realized that, hey, we could have a company here. And that's where we said, okay, we're gonna roll forward, we're gonna do this. And we jumped out of the retail space into starting Fusion Zone Automotive. And it was a grind. It was a lot of work, but growing a company from 1 to 2 to 5 to 50 to 100 to 150. 2 offices between Florida and California. We started it in Florida, and then we relocated that to California because we signed up some prominent West Coast dealers, and we didn't know anyone. Obviously, hopped on an airplane, moved to Los Angeles because of the international hub of it, and the ease of getting in and out, and that's where we started. So, that was the first start of a non-auto business, and we ran that for a decade and then exited to private equity.
And as you scaled, that's one of those pivotal moments. I know that Professor Hobb talks about this with his entrepreneurship students, but sometimes it's really hard to move out of that entrepreneurial phase into scaling it up and still keeping the magic of what you've created. How did you manage that?
So I was more the magic maker and the salesperson and the, meet everyone I could and talk and sell, right? Karen was the brains behind the operational aspect of the business. I had told Kent at dinner last month that probably going to start another digital company, but I can't get her to dive in again. She's in the retired mode. She's like, I'm done. So for now, no more digital. Eric, who is a managing partner of our Subaru store, flew in. He was in one of the tech companies with me, and so it's been. It is very hard to scale, and it's very hard to get left behind. And if you're not a really detail and process-oriented person, you're not going to make it. And that's not my skill set. That is hers.
So you've done a number of turnarounds. You mentioned one. Could you tell us about some others?
So in addition to
businesses. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my objective and what I'm doing now is I'm in the dealership space. My family was in the dealership space. They re-entered, wanted me to work for them. My dad was a real pain in the ass to work for, and I was just not the least bit interested.
Anybody from a family business?
Yeah. So, we kept doing our own thing. He put a lot of pressure. Hey, you need to come into the family business, this, that, and the other. And, we grew and scaled technology companies to the tune of 9-figure exits. And so we had our own path. He had re-entered, as I mentioned, he re-entered the business and had maybe 13 or 14 stores to the point where he passed away. And, conveniently, in his estate planning, went with a generation skipping trust, which was fantastic. And I was
For
left.
for our students, what does that mean? They may not have heard of that before.
Okay, it means if you're the kid, you get nothing. pretty much black and white. If you're the kid, you get nothing. It goes to the grandparents. There's supposed tax advantages to that. So he passed away. I was not aware of what he had done from a financial perspective or a planning perspective, and quickly realized that we were part of the generation skipping trust. But luckily, Karen and I had saved a lot, had made a lot in the tech world, and we were able to buy out the trust. The trust owned the dealerships. We were able to buy all the stores from the trust, and that's when I decided quickly that I was going to get back into the retail automobile business, because I thought the dealerships were undervalued at what the trust said they were worth. The trust said they were worth right at $100 million when at the time of his passing, and I thought that is just way light. And dove in, bought the dealerships myself, and ended up not liking the mix of brands that he had and some of the older school general managers and mentality that he had. I didn't agree with the advertising that they had. So I wanted to change a lot. I ended up exiting all of those stores. There were 13 of them, and then there was one open point for Hyundai. And I ended up selling all of them over 3 years. And yeah, enough. I mean, they had definitely undervalued them. They had said the value was $100 million. We exited for $330 million. So a big upside there. Have since gone in and bought 3 more stores, a Toyota store, a Lexus store, and a Subaru store, which happened to be, I think, the best brands in automotive. Eric Brower, who is here, is the managing partner. He's a partner in the Subaru store in Knoxville. He was, as I mentioned, in the tech world with me a little bit and has done a phenomenal job. That's a good example of a turnaround. That store, they were selling 30 Subarus. Eric's selling 250 now out of that location. The store was not making money, and it'll make $5 million this year, which is a phenomenal turnaround. Eric's taken a lot of what he learned in the digital space, and a lot of what I taught him in the digital space, and implemented that firsthand. And it's just much more hands-on involved than most people are. And that's what sets me apart, right? I have a love of digital marketing. I have a love of auto. And it's truly understanding what you love and embracing that and running with it, right? I mean, it could be digital, it could be automotive, it could be like the Jersey Mike's guy just sold that thing for $9 billion. He started out making sandwiches. I mean, it's whatever you have a passion about that's truly going to set you apart. And mine just happened to be auto and technology. So, that's one good turnaround. The other that we were talking about prior was, the Lexus and Toyota store. I paid a lot of money for. They were making about $1 million a year, which is severely underperforming with the 2 best brands in the nation. They weren't sales efficient. They weren't selling enough cars per their manufacturer guidelines. Just very old school mentality. Paid, $61 million for that business, and plus real estate. And, in 2024, we made right at $20 million. And in 2025, we'll probably make $25 million. So it's just utilizing, but it's how we're getting there. And that's what I mean by loving what you do. It's how do we get to, when one dealer's making $1 million and we're making $25 million. It's understanding, for me, it's the digital marketing. It's understanding how do we do this for less money and have a competitive advantage. And that's what I think differentiates us from the competition. We build a lot of software in-house at our own dealerships. I've been focusing on, service to sales, taking service customers and turning those into new sales customers. And we've developed all our own in-house technology to do those things. And it's really just embracing passion, what you're passionate about, and figuring out how that can give you a competitive advantage, and then getting your dealerships to the next level.
Inspiring words. So one of the questions, and the students submitted questions that I'm asking you this evening, or this afternoon. One of them is, what are the major challenges in your industry? And that's a big one, but let's start with your view of tariffs, because that's certainly shaking things up.
And the most challenging thing in our industry at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, how are you going to attack that?
So I'm so confident in our team. You know, every manufacturer is going to face rocky times. And it's the teams that are weaker or don't have that competitive advantage that I just described, it's those people that are going to struggle. I'm confident that our team will be able to quickly change, and that's the advantage of a small group like us right now, is we're able to change very fast. To the point of, we're going to have all the managers on a call, which we already have. This is going to be the direction we go, and we're going to run. Where if you're a bigger group like a Sonic or a Group 1 or a Lithia, they're not as nimble. So I think tariffs as a whole are going to obviously present a supply issue. Dealers typically profit when that happens. I mean, dealers will raise prices. They're going to expect consumers to pay more. And COVID showed us that those consumers will pay more. So all in all, I think I don't agree with how the tariffs were handled. I understand their purpose, and I understand bringing, production back to the United States. Hyundai recently, the other day, committed to, I believe, a $21 billion facility in Louisiana. To me, that's enough. I would have said, look, if you're showing that kind of commitment, we're going to grandfather you in, right? I think that is how it probably should have been handled versus just blanketing everyone with tariffs. If Toyota came to the table and said, listen, Mr. President, I'm no longer going to produce the 11 vehicles that are produced in Japan. We're going to produce all those here, and here's $50 billion to show we're serious. To me, that would have been the best of both worlds, because I think it's going to be the consumer that suffers. I think the consumer is going to end up paying more money. I mean, we're still dealing with negative equity situations at all our stores, and I think all dealers are, because of the situation they were put in by COVID, because dealers are getting greedy and they're saying, hey, you know what? We're going to charge you an extra $10,000 for this car because there's none of them available. And consumers are in a situation where they have no choice. So I think it hurts the consumer more than it hurts anyone. And I think dealers that are nimble and can act quick and that can make decisions and have a playbook are going to be fine. In fact, I think from a profitability standpoint, I could actually see it increasing profits.
So you're talking about the different responses in your industry. One of the other questions our students are interested in your approach to competition.
So competition, this is where I think we have a strong upper hand. If you really think about, and this number changes all the time, and I haven't heard it in 5 or 10 years, but if you think about what % of consumers start their buying process online, what do you think that is? 99% these days? I remember, 20 years ago, people would say, oh yeah, it's 40%, now it's 60%, now it's 80%. I'm going to tell you it's darn near 100%. And if I have scaled companies from 0 to 9 figures in the digital marketing and technology space, we have a massive upper hand. And that is our competitive advantage. I mean, if dealers, Southeast Toyota, the average dealer is spending $760 per car sold right now in advertising. We're coming in under 300. That's a massive competitive advantage. Just recently, and Eric, you'll get text from me on a Sunday morning at 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes saying, I have just figured out AI. I have figured out how to move the needle. And that was a recent one, wasn't it? So if you guys have noticed, and this just shows you what continual learning and research and driving results looks like, I was determined to figure out how many people in here have seen you do a search on Google now and it says AI results at the top, right? There are tons. All of the paid search ads are pushed below the fold. All the organic searches are pushed below the fold. Dealers are complaining, businesses in general, not just dealers, are complaining that their organic search results are at all-time lows. Well, the key is, how do we appear in the AI search results? I figured that out. That's a huge competitive advantage. We reworked our entire infrastructure to now appear in these results. Our organic traffic is up 60%, where most people are down 20 or 30%. So that's just kind of it's embracing the technology with the business you're in. And it doesn't have to be automotive. When I sold Fusion Zone, we were in a non-compete, and Karen says, we're going to learn to play golf. I'm like, okay. I was bored out of my mind. And I think it lasted maybe 6 months, and that was just a disaster. And somehow or another, I started another company providing the same exact playbook that I had at Fusion Zone, but to the contractor space. We scaled that company to 1,000 plus, wasn't a little over 1,000, Eric? 1,500 contractors, and did that in 12 months. We were the only business that any private equity firm had ever heard of that didn't even have a current tax return filed before they bought it, because they were banging on our door saying, whatever. I mean, we disrupted that entire industry. So this works in any industry. I keep saying auto because I grew up in it, but when forced to do something else, I was speaking the language of pavers and blacktop guys. And I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. The craziest thing I ever went to, Eric and I both got COVID. We were in Salt Lake City at a convention. What was that thing called?
It was a roofing conference.
It was the door knocking convention. You can't make this stuff up.
Wow.
It was called a door knocking convention, where before we always used to have a massive booth at NADA and all this stuff. And I was like, this is our first convention in contractors. And I was like, I have absolutely no idea what to expect. And we had a booth, and we were at the door knocker convention of all things. And these people had gone back 30 years. They had never even heard of digital marketing. They were knocking on doors. That's why it's called the door knocking convention. I found out that they wanted to host it in Salt Lake City because that's where all the Mormons are, and they're used to knocking on doors. And literally, they asked me to speak it to, 1,500 of these people. And one of the guys came up to me and he's like, do you think I'm going to eventually have it's not going to be me knocking on the door, it's going to be a hologram? I'm like, what? He's like, it's not a real door knocker, fake door knocker. I'm like, I think you're probably just fine. But yeah, talk about making inroads in an industry quick. We did that in less than 12 months. And yeah, I mean, that was a quick thing. So it's taking all of these lessons and learning. At that time, I didn't like not being in automotive. It sucked having this non-compete, but I had a passion for technology, a passion for digital. And, Eric was working with me, and thank God he was, because he didn't get fat and happy during COVID, as all car dealers did. And yeah, it was good.
So interesting, as we were talking beforehand, you said traditional SEO is a thing of the past, and you've just illustrated that. So thanks for that. One of the questions our students are very interested in is, what advice do you have for someone starting their career in the industry? Maybe just generally starting their career, but then also.
Love what you do. Love what you do. You can't, if car dealerships are not your thing, if contractors aren't your thing, whatever it may be, you have to have a passion for it, and you have to absolutely love what you do. As I said, the Jersey Mike's guy is a prime example, opening the one shop and then recently exiting for $9 billion, right? If you don't have that passion or that love for what you do, I think you're honestly spinning your wheels and wasting your time.
So another thing that came out in our conversations beforehand was the word grit came up a number of times, and resilience. Could you share a bit more about that? I think that'd be something that our students will definitely take away.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's it. It's having this no quit attitude, and you know, in the vendor world especially, you know, being told no 100 times before you get one yes. Then you get better at it and you're told no 20 times before you get one yes. It takes determination and drive to continue on sometimes. You know, I mean, in the business that my wife and I started, you know, when you scale from one dealer to a couple thousand dealers, or in lead revenue, the last business we exited, not in auto directly, it's having that no quit attitude, especially the first one, because, you know, starting out, we didn't have money. I didn't work for my father. I didn't follow in his footsteps. I mean, we were, you know, went from a cushy life making, you know, $700,000, $1 million a year running a Honda store that was in the top 25 in the country, to, you know, living in an apartment in Los Angeles, Marina Del Rey, really scraping by, but seeing that vision and having that, knowing where you want to be, and, you know, that constant drive to get there, and that just no quit attitude. I mean, once you find what you love, make that commitment, and, you know, stick to it. Don't quit. I mean, that's the name of the game, and that's where most people get it wrong, because most people do run with their tail between their legs and take the easy path. Maybe it's going back to work for somebody, or, you know, it's having that mentality and that vision, and you got your prize at the end, and you're not going to quit until you reach that prize.
That's such great advice. If you could invite a famous person for dinner, who would it be?
Probably Donald Trump, to ask him, why in the hell did you do this so quick? And saying, what about what I just strategized? How about, you know, Hyundai commits 20 billion, they're excluded. Toyota commits 50 billion, they're excluded. That would probably be the person I'd like to sit down with most right now.
We'll see what we can do.
Thank you very much.
So you mentioned the failed attempt at becoming a golfer. What do you do to relax?
Biking. I love biking. Mountain biking, road biking. Park City is phenomenal mountain biking in the summer, and I spend a lot of time in Los Angeles, or did, and we had our house that burned down with fires. But
So sorry to hear that.
yeah, that was a crazy time. But you know, I love getting out and biking, and, you know, health and fitness, and, you know, taking care of yourself, watching what you eat, keeps you sharper. You know, it just keeps you more on your toes.
Thank you. What do you want to be remembered for?
Giving back, I think, more than anything, is giving back and helping people get, you know, from point A to point B in their lives. You know, finding people that really have the drive and the determination, that want to be something more, and helping them get there. Right? We don't need more money. But if I can have, you know, another bunch of wins, seeing people progress from, you know, they're here now, how do they get to here, and making that happen. That's really what I'd like to be remembered for.
That is perfect. What is the best compliment? And you know what? You're going to be remembered by these students here tonight for what you're sharing with them, and the priceless lessons learned. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Probably just that I mean, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I have, it's not all me, I have some assistants that we strategize how to do this, but I've hired some of the best people from LinkedIn. But I've had many people that have reached out to me that said, hey, you know what, you've made an impact, you've actually helped me. Some of the things that you talk about and things you discuss, and, you know, talking about how to grow your business, or, you know, how to scale. I get messages like that continually, and that's a great compliment.
Well, at Northwood, you talk about going mad, making a difference, and certainly you do that. Another question, this is one of the classic questions our students are always very interested in, is what advice would you give your younger self?
don't go in it thinking you can do it all yourself. You know, that's probably the biggest mistake that I made in Fusion Zone. I mean, Karen, how many companies do we have trying to buy Fusion Zone? Was it 25? I mean, a ridiculous number wanting to buy this company. And, you know, they were flying us all over the country. We were in New York and in San Francisco, whining and dining us. And I remember in those meetings, I would step aside and have to go close a deal, you know, literally. I mean, I was the sales department. You know, when we're a multi-million dollar in reoccurring revenue business, where I messed up is thinking I was the only one that could do it and that I was the only one that could really do it myself. Had I scaled that to the next level, it wouldn't have been a $100 million company, it would have been $1 billion company, because it was just hard for me to let that control go. So I think thinking that you can do everything yourself is small-minded and small thinking in the grand scheme of things.
So what do you look for in people you work with then, and when you're recruiting talent?
People that have the determination and the drive and the desire and the want. Eric, since I met him, was saying, hey, I need to figure out how to get to this next level. I need to figure out how to get, and guess what? Now he's there. And now he's like, hey, I don't like flying Delta anymore. I need to figure out how to get to the private plane, right? I mean, true story, right? Experience the Delta today, a little different than our plane. But, you know, that is what I look for, is the drive and the determination and the want. The people that really want it and are able to do anything to get it. You know, that more so than if you told me I could have someone, you know, that was a 4.0 student that was the smartest person in Northwood, or I could have, you know, this hard worker who will outwork anyone. I'm going to go with the hard worker every time. It's having that determination and that drive. That's what I'm looking for.
And it sounds like that ties back to grit and resilience.
It
So
does.
You're looking for that. How do you detect that when you're interviewing somebody?
I think it just shows. It's easy. Sawyer, who I met, he gave me an award in Las Vegas. What was that award? It was a
dealer excellence, something to do with the dealer excellence, dealer education.
yeah, and I was there, and he was so outgoing, and his personality was huge. And, you know, who was there? Were you there, Eric?
Yes.
You were there. And then Kent has that real early in the morning, which is always appreciative. It's like at 6 a.m. or something. And so I get this award, and I come back because it was a little too early for Karen to be there. And I tell her, I'm like, I'm going to hire this kid that just gave me this award. And showed her the video of how enthusiastic and how, you know, that's the type, it just shows that energy shines through. And that's what I'm looking for. And you can tell in 2 seconds if that's the person or not.
So what's next for you, Brett?
You know, I'm continuing to grow the dealerships. It's very easy to buy a business. Like, I could go buy a business, a car dealership, and that's what I'm focused on right now, because my wife's told me she's not jumping back into the digital space. And I can go buy a dealership tomorrow, but if I don't have the proper people to run that business, it's a disaster. You know, you need someone that you trust. You need someone in there that can run it. Right now, we're looking feverishly for another store to put under Eric's leadership in Tennessee. I have a Chevrolet dealership under contract in North Carolina. But again, I had the person before I had the dealership. I had a, and this is the thing, this goes back to the grit. The guy that I had working for me, he ran our Genesis store in Florida that I sold. Phenomenal guy, top tier operator. Huge story of when we bought this, taking it from nothing to something. Our non-solicit ended with the guy that I sold it to. And I was telling Karen, I'm like, I'm going to call John Garces. And I didn't call him. He called me like 2 days later. It was like ESP. It was crazy. And he's like, and this is what I'm looking for in people. It's like, Brett, I want to work for you again. I don't care where I have to go. At the time, we had a deal under LOI, a letter of intent, a Hyundai and Genesis store in La Quinta, California. It didn't work out. I look at about 50 stores, maybe even more, maybe 100 stores before one actually comes to fruition. And he's like, I'll move there. And I'm like, John, didn't work out for this reason, this reason, this reason. But I've got a Chevy store in North Carolina. I'm in. I mean, he doesn't care the location. He just wants to, he knows the advancements and the growth he can get from working with me.
That's impressive. Well, it's time to transition to Q&A, and we're taking questions from those who are watching via live streaming, as well as a microphone in the room. We have one from online already, so we'll start with that one. And those of you in the room who have questions, be thinking about those and put your hand up. And Carrie with the microphone will come over to you. So here's the first one from online. You create softwares in-house and your space is digital marketing. Who creates the product? What is the timeline and execution from problem to solution?
That's a great question. We move very quickly. We had 16 programmers in-house at Fusion Zone. I believe it was 16 in our Los Angeles office. And we had more in Florida, at our Florida office. When you start scaling a business, you realize what can save you money. We now have a team of people in Pakistan, and we typically have one liaison that deals with those people that can communicate better with them. And that's who's developing our software. They move incredibly fast. Their operation has about 175 programmers, and they are extremely good. So, you know, software is something that's ever evolving. We have software that we've been working on for the past 3 years that we have called Smarter Dealer internally. And what it does is when a customer brings their car in to service, we want our service advisors to provide them with two options. One, okay, your car needs $3,000 worth of repairs. Second option is, and this is going to work great during the tariff time because cars have gone up dramatically in price. I was watching an online auction yesterday. Cars were up $5,000 one day over the next. We're going to give you an instant cash offer, and we built software that will instantly appraise your car. Literally, it takes 3 seconds. Literally, we can put the license plate number in, the VIN number in.
I think he means it when he says it literally takes 3 seconds.
Probably less than that. And literally, we'll print an offer for the customer on the spot. So if you bring your car in, and let's say you've got a 2022 Toyota Camry, you need $3,000 worth of work. But we instantly tell you that, hey, we'll buy your car right now for $26,500, and it's worth way more than you thought. This is going to be the time to really utilize this because with tariffs, used cars have gone up dramatic, $5,000 overnight. So that's where we're going to be really stepping up. Eric, make note of that. We need to get this thing to the next level. And because now is the time. I mean, we need to be presenting this to 100% of the people 100% of the time and blowing their mind with an offer because new cars, Subaru just said 30%, they're going to cut production by 30%. I think you're going to see it fall further than that. So used cars is going to be the play. We have to quickly adapt and figure out how do we buy as many used cars as possible. We're using our own software to do it. So when we started developing this from an idea into hard time, probably, was it a year about? Does that sound about right?
It went fast. I mean, it was
9 months, something like that. And then we constantly tweak it, but it's through the team in Pakistan. But yeah.
Thanks. Questions in the room?
Hi. Thank you for coming in, first of all. Second of all, I wanted to ask, as somebody who has close to half a billion dollars in exits, a lot of what we're taught here is how to start and run businesses, but what do you look for in terms of exiting a business?
So that's what I'm looking at when I buy the business. When I buy the business, I'm looking at what the opportunity looks like, what the multiple of an exit looks like, and then factoring in, when I'm buying a business, I don't do due diligence, very, very little. I want to look at what contracts we're obligated to take over, and that's about it. We're going to start a new corporation, so we're not going to inherit liability from the old company that we're buying, but I care about what our processes are, what our teams are, backing into a projection of what we think we can do with that business, and what does it look like at an exit, right? We, perfect example, Toyota and Lexus, and my wife hears me this talk day in, day out. You know, I told you guys earlier I was committed to going to the University of Alabama. These stores are in Alabama. My phone rings. Nick Saban calling me, and answer the phone. He's offered $150 million on something 2 years ago that I paid 61 for. And I'm telling her, I'm like, you know what? If we move the business, because we want to move it to a better part of town, Toyota and Lexus combined should bring a 10-time multiple. You know, if we can do $25 million in net profit, it's a $250 million exit. I'd be leaving $100 million on the table. So I look at when I'm buying a company, is when I'm thinking of the exit of the company. So it's all in relation.
There's another.
So my question is, I know in like the dealership world, there's different things thrown at you every day that you would never expect, or a lot of people really wouldn't know how to deal with. So I'm curious how you kind of plan for the unplanned, and how you and your team work together plan for all the unexpected things that are thrown at you in that kind of industry every day.
You mean like customer problems, things of that nature?
Stuff like that. There's everything that you wouldn't expect, things that could go wrong that don't necessarily happen every day, like complaints or things from customers.
I'm not involved at all in that, just to be candid with you. I literally, it goes back to the person running each business, and then I have a president of the group that works underneath me, and then he is the only person that reports to me, where I spend my time more or less on M&A and technology.
So my question is, in your response to the question regarding tariffs, you said that you were extremely confident in your team. What aspects of your team allow you to be that confident?
What aspects in the team?
Like what aspects of your team allow you to have that competency?
Oh, I think we have the best of the best. I mean, we don't have most of your, and it's sad to say, if you go to, we could go on a field trip right now down to one of the dealerships in this area, and it's going to look so old school. There's going to be a guy sitting behind a sales desk. There's going to be a receptionist. It's going to be old school dealerships. And if you've got that versus people who are thoroughly advanced in technology and digital, I think we have a strong competitive advantage. I mean, I think that is going to be your difference. I mean, your guy in dealership A is probably, still thinking he might want to advertise in the newspaper, where you may have a guy over here in, newspaper circulation 0 these days, and then you're comparing it to someone who is wanting to show up in AI results on Google. I mean, 2 different trains of thought. From a speed perspective, we move much quicker. We'll grow this group from 3 to 10 probably, but I don't want to get much bigger than that, because we're at the top 0.1% from a profitability standpoint. I'd rather have 10 stores to manage than I would 100 that make the same amount of money with less risk. But it's the ability to be nimble, and you don't get that with large groups or a massive infrastructure. And that's why I have the confidence in my team, because I know they'll move quickly. I know when we make a decision, they'll execute, and they'll do it in a very, very rapid manner.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. But my question today was, what were some of the adversities you went through your career in the beginning, and how did you adapt to them?
I think the biggest adversity I went through was when I determined that there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to work for my father, and having to exit that and figuring out what does that path look like for me. I've got a very different story than most of the people I went to college with. I mean, I went to college with some big dealers. Ganley's one, Darvish is one that you guys probably have heard of in this area. And, that was all traditional succession planning. It was the father passed away and they gave it to the son. Mine is much different. I made the early realization that he was an asshole, I can't work for him. Then what I did was I said, what am I going to do? And I basically found my own path. I identified a problem, which was digital marketing, and I developed an incredible passion for it, and I didn't stop until I hit that prize. And that's the exact same thing that I've done in the dealership world, or quite frankly with any business that I've had. It's, but again, do you have to sometimes feel pain before you see success? Absolutely. There were many times when Karen and I started our first company that we're like, you need to sell more. You need to sell more. I mean, I got this one cracking the whip at me saying I need to sell more because she knows that we've got to make payroll next week. You know what I mean? It's funny how that works. So it's just having that drive and grit and determination not to quit when things look tough.
We have quite a few questions rolling in online right now. Have digital initiatives replaced salespeople?
No, they haven't. Just much like digital retailing, that was a buzzword forever. That was the buzzword when we exited Fusion Zone. We did not invest dollars. We were a very profitable company at the time, but we didn't invest dollars on that because it was just my inclination that who's going to buy a car online if they've never driven the car? You still need salespeople. Much like the door knocker guy that asked me if he was going to be replaced with a hologram. I mean, I don't think you can replace a salesperson with that. Now, I think an old school salesperson is something of the past, and I think you need to become product experts. Every person in my dealerships are trained, from the receptionist to anyone who has interaction with a customer is Subaru certified in Eric's example, is Toyota certified, is Lexus certified. Because guess what? If they're not pressuring a customer to buying a car like the traditional old school method, and they are saying, Mr. McDonald, can you believe that the new 4Runner has a third row seat? Just mentioning small talk to that customer, that is going to open doors. And gone are the times of hammering a customer and, throwing their keys on the roof for their trade-in and just nonsense, right? It's becoming true professionals and experts, product experts, I don't think will ever go away. The conversion of salespeople to product experts, that needs to happen more quickly. But, I mean, that is the biggest difference. No one wants to be assaulted by a salesperson when they walk into a dealership. But if you go in there thinking that it's going to be a similar experience to the Apple Store and you're going to learn everything there is to know about this Toyota 4Runner, it's going to be a different experience. But I think, just like digital retailing didn't take hold. I mean, you may have customers that do buy their car online, but it hasn't replaced the need to go in a dealership and drive the car because maybe you're looking at a Nissan Altima versus a Toyota Camry versus a Honda Accord.
It's the driving experience.
It's the driving experience, right. And if you go in there and you meet a true professional that's not a salesperson, but a product expert, who are you going to buy from?
Product expert.
That's right. And you're going to pay more money, more than likely. Price won't be your number one objection.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we have so many questions rolling in, Brett. I think we might have to think about another fireside chat in the future.
The fire's so nice.
Blends such ambiance. But any final words of advice for our students before we transition?
I think my biggest advice is find what you're passionate about. If you think you need to be in this box because I'm going to make all the money, but I don't enjoy it, you're chasing the wrong dream. If you don't love what you do, it's going to be a miserable experience. But if you do love what you do, you're going to do very, very well. And if you have the grit and drive and the determination and the resilience, you'll make it big.
Well, thank you for that and for investing your time in helping our students learn about your keys to success.
Of course.
We are just so blessed to have you here, and benefiting from your insights and wisdom are our students. And to wrap things up, we have a student who is going to share his perspective, Max Hart. He's a sophomore from Sheboygan, Michigan.
He's doing an internship with us in the summer.
Yes, and we call that the tip of the mitt, actually, his hometown. And he's majoring in automotive marketing and management, and he'll share some of his key takeaways.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett, for investing your time in helping us learn about your keys to success. We've all benefited greatly from your insights and wisdom, especially our students. And to wrap things up, we'd like to invite, I'm so sorry, this is not my page. Thank you, Dr. Stahauer, and thank you, Mr. Sutherlin, for so generously sharing your wisdom. As I prepare for my career, I have a number of valuable takeaways from this evening. I will always remember your ability to show gratitude and give credit to others. I think that's a great sign of a leader. I will always remember you talking about grit and a no-quit attitude. I learned that embracing what you love and running with it can take you to great places. I've also learned that you can't do everything on your own. Thank you again for allowing us all to benefit from your insights. And Mr. Sutherlin, to commemorate you serving as a guest for our Northwood University Leadership Insights, A View from the Helm, we have a gift to show our appreciation for you.
Thank you. If you could just give me 90 more seconds of your time, I just have six very quick things. First of all, we have refreshments downstairs. We welcome all of you to enjoy those. It'll allow you some chance to talk and share your thoughts on tonight, but it will also give you an opportunity to speak with Brett. But beyond Brett, there may be some other people you want to speak with. Sawyer is here, and he's had the experience of working with Brett and his company. Eric, could you just wave your hand? So Eric is an alumnus of Northwood, has done extremely well, and as you heard, has come all the way up here today on Delta. And I suspect he will have some things to share. You also heard tonight, and I heard this when Mary Ellen and I were able to have dinner out in Utah, Brett's partner in crime undoubtedly is Karen, who is an exemplary businesswoman herself. Her academic pedigree is outstanding. She's been through these travels hand in hand with Brett, not only as a spouse, but as a business partner. So Karen, could you just wave your hand? Because I bet everyone, but a lot of the women would like to speak with Karen as well. As for our alumnus, Brett, you know, I'm just not only intrigued by his success, but just so proud that when I go on and watch one of his podcasts, I sent Brett a note to see him wearing, you know, a podcast that's being viewed around the globe, wearing Northwood clothing, just made me really, really proud. And so you'll have a chance to speak with Brett, and a number of us are looking forward to a conversation tomorrow. But I'm going to end this way. I'm going to talk about Brett and Karen. And Brett mentioned the importance of his legacy, their legacy of giving back, students going mad, going to make a difference. And just, I could take the rest of the night to talk about this, but just as one example, all you need to do is walk out to this building the traditional way or through this exit, the beautiful American flag there. The only reason that that's on the building is the generosity of Brett and Karen, who have helped underwrite that. We now, the plaques are there that recognize them. And just beyond, on behalf of all of us, trustees, our faculty, our staff, alumni, and the students who have not yet been so fortunate to come to Northwood. I just want to sincerely thank both of you for coming here today, sharing your thoughts, but also giving back, Brett, to your alma mater, and Karen to be so supportive in doing that. Carter is a big decision to come up, and Landon is for sure coming our way, right, Landon? In a few years, yeah, maybe 5 or 6. So on behalf of everyone, thank you very much to the Sutherlins for being here, and join us downstairs for a bite to eat. Thank you, students. You've got lots on your plate. Exams are coming up. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you, everyone.